You should be running.
This is safe upstairs. How do we get there?
If you've spent any time in the world of Hellboy, you already know it's crawling with demons, secret societies, and things that go boom. But tucked into all that chaos is Elizabeth Sherman. Liz, if you're not a government file. You may know her as the firestarter of the B.P.R.D, or Hellboy's closest companion, but her backstory is more of a tragedy baked in napalm. This is a girl who accidentally wiped out her entire town before she hit puberty, and yet she still walks into battle with a haunted look and her flames under control. Well, most of the time. So before she's tossing pyroblasts at frog monsters, let's rewind the tape. Who really is Elizabeth Sherman? Where did all this fire come from? On today's deep dive, we'll be talking about her origins. So let's dive into it. Who is Elizabeth Sherman? Elizabeth Sherman's story doesn't begin with fire. It begins with loss. Born on April 15th in Kansas City, Liz seemed like an ordinary girl who was raised in a Catholic family and went to church every Sunday. She had a younger brother and loved her life. But things started to change around age 10. Let's say anytime she got angry or scared, or started to feel intense emotion, it took a toll on the things around her. Objects would heat up, candles would flare, and glass would crack. She didn't know it then, but she was a pyrokinetic. Now, before you start Googling the word, let me tell you, it was the ability to control objects with your mind. The breaking point came on July 4th, when Liz was celebrating at a backyard barbecue and a neighborhood kid declared it was his last day and started bullying her. A mix of anger and panic triggered something inside her. Now, what followed was something some people might call an accident. But in fact, it was a full-scale explosion. The resulting fire consumed 32 city blocks, including homes, churches, schools, and her entire family. Liz was only 11. She might have walked out of that wreckage physically unharmed, but it ruined her emotionally. The Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense, B.P.R.D, took her in immediately. They recognized her power and wanted to protect and rather contain her. So for years, Liz lived in B.P.R.D facilities under strict observation. They studied her like a volatile specimen. There was no family around for emotional support. A bunch of scientists and loneliness was all she had. During this time, she met Hellboy, and unlike the others, he didn't treat her like a problem. Hellboy called her firecracker, brought her snacks, offered her some companionship, and became the first real anchor in her life since the tragedy. By her late teens, Liz tried to re-enter normal society. She left the Bureau to live independently and even enrolled in college. During a particular period of self-imposed exile, she decided to live in a monastery where she was guided by monks. They hoped to help her contain the chaos within her mind and body. However, Liz began experiencing visions, which were only symptoms of her power evolving and becoming harder to control. One day, the pressure built to a breaking point, and the psychic stress exploded in a violent surge of energy, which ended up destroying the monastery and killing nearly everyone inside it. Now, even though it wasn't an intentional attack, her uncontrollable discharge once again left her alone and terrified of herself. This event shattered her belief that she could ever truly be normal or peaceful. With nowhere else to turn and overwhelmed by guilt, she returned to the B.P.R.D. in hopes that she could control the storm that she carried. Role in comics, B.P.R.D. and initial missions. By age 18 or 19, Liz formally joined the Bureau's roster. Though she held the rank of agent, emotional stress often triggered her powers. As mentioned before, she'd leave the B.P.R.D. temporarily, only to return, because this flawed organization was the closest thing she had to family. Early case files show her featuring in spectral investigations, haunted houses, and restless ghosts. Through tiny burn marks and fireplace fires, she learned to limit her power to gentle warmth, proving she could be useful in the field. Cavendish and Girescu, working with Hellboy and Abe. The Seed of Destruction arc marks the first major turning point. During a mission at Cavendish Hall, Grigory Rasputin targeted Liz for her pyrokinetic potential. He forcibly drew out her energy to awaken the frog spawn Kathahem, indirectly fueling his cataclysmic plan. Following this arc came Wake the Devil, where Liz encountered the homunculus, eventually named Roger. At Chegg Castle, she transferred her power into the inert being in a desperate bid to rid herself of the burden. And even though the homunculus sparked to life, Liz fell into a coma. The act strained her relationship with Hellboy and Abe Sapien as they intervened to save her, recovering Roger and returning her power. From now on, Hellboy and Abe saw Liz as more than a tool. She was a friend and essential mission partner. The trio emerged bonded, with Liz now understanding the value of her power. Plague of Frogzark. After her recovery, Liz retreated to a monastery in the Ural Mountains. Monks taught her that the fire is not her enemy. It is rather a part of her. It was a mantra to her newfound emotional and elemental control. After returning more centered, she joined the Plague of Frogs saga. It felt like her command of flame was essentially against the resurrected frog-headed monsters. She then unleashed a final blast that obliterated the monstrous Kathahem that Rasputin had begun to summon. Memnon Saw Arc. The emergence of Memnon Saw deeply altered Liz's trajectory. This occult scientist, who was initially seeking esoteric knowledge, realized that Liz's flame could facilitate apocalyptic ends. In The Warning, the Black Goddess and King of Fear, Saw abducted her to channel her power through a machine designed to manipulate destiny. During captivity, Liz suffered visions and prophetic dreams, and Saw used her as a spiritual conduit. When she was forcibly brought before an audience, her consciousness partially collapsed. All the spirits, nightmares, and reality mingled, and Abe Sapien found her frozen in psychological shock, barely breathing. Abe and Hellboy rescued her, but Saw's influence lingered since Liz awoke mentally fractured. His ghost began haunting her dreams, imploring her to unleash her flame to preempt doomsday. When Saw possessed an agent, she cast him out with a fiery ritual that left her emotionally raw. In King of Fear, Liz faced Saw's final gambit. He abducted her again, and well, this time swore to use her flame to rewrite fate and stop the apocalypse before it began. Renegade frog monsters, Iron Age occult schemes, and interdimensional gatekeepers converged beneath a monastery in Bavaria. At the climax, Liz tapped into the Vril force and channeled it through an artifact revealed in visions. She erupted in a primal inferno that whipped out frog monsters in the underworld and ignited volcanic catastrophes across Asia. She destroyed Malaysia and flattened islands like Borneo. She also triggered a massive geological shift in California by releasing mutagenic gas across North America. Emotionally, though she saved the planet, she blamed herself for the global natural disaster. It cost her dearly. The B.P.R.D, alongside national authorities, viewed her as a double-edged weapon. Return to B.P.R.D and growth. After recovering in seclusion, Liz returned to the B.P.R.D in a dramatically different state. Now she carried inner discipline and precise flame control learned from monks. She wielded fire in microflames, lighting cigarettes or macro-level blasts that cleared forests during containment missions. Her appearance subtly changed as well, as she stopped aging visibly after plunging into the Vril's energy. She became the Bureau's premier pyrokinetic specialist, who is trusted with both tactical support and crisis intervention. She fought grimly in missions like Hell on Earth, The Return of the Black Flame, and The Devil You Know. Her bond with Hellboy and Abe Sapien deepened as Hellboy became her confidant. Abe attended to her after her mental collapse. Together, they formed a team defined by unconditional trust during times of supernatural terror. In movies, Liz Sherman brought with her a truckload of emotional baggage along with a love story that added surprising depth to all the monster-smashing mayhem. She was played by Selma Blair in Guillermo del Toro's 2004 and 2008 adaptations. Liz was a walking contradiction, a combo of dangerous but kind and distant but full of heart. And right from her first scene, you could tell she wasn't here to be just another supporting character. She carried pain on her shoulders like armor, and every flicker of flame from her hands reminded us that she was one emotional outburst away from tragedy. In the first Hellboy, Liz isn't part of the team when we meet her. She's in a mental hospital because she's terrified of hurting people again. I mean, Liz burned her family to death when she was a kid. Even though it was an accident, it's a big enough scar on anyone's psyche. When Hellboy shows up to visit her, he's pleading with someone he clearly loves to come back to a world that nearly broke her. That's a bold opening dynamic for a character who, in the comics, mostly served as a tortured soul and powerful ally. The movie version made her the emotional anchor. Guillermo del Toro, being the sentimental madman that he is, leaned into that sadness. He cast Blair for her vulnerability. Her performance is deliberately quiet. She's not the loud, fiery type you'd expect from someone with literal fire powers. Her voice barely rises above a whisper in most scenes, making it all the more haunting when she finally unleashes her flames and becomes a supernatural nuclear event. The dynamic between Liz and Hellboy is one of the major changes from the source material. In the comics, their bond is more of a siblings in arms, you could say, but the films took a different route. Hellboy is madly in love with her, and while Liz has her own complicated feelings, she doesn't jump into his arms with reckless abandon. She's cautious and guarded, even walled off for most of the first movie. When she finally does return to the team, it's because she realizes she can't hide forever. That's the core of her story. Not the fire, not the monsters, not even Hellboy. It's about a woman learning to stop punishing herself. In the final act of the first film, her powers become key to defeating Rasputin's apocalyptic scheme. She lets herself go completely by transforming into a fire goddess of destruction, and it looks absolutely stunning. That moment cemented Liz as more than just Hellboy's love interest. She was a weapon of mass redemption, forcing herself to confront the very thing she feared, which is her own power. Then came Hellboy 2, The Golden Army, and with it, a very different Liz. Gone is the trembling, withdrawn figure. Now she's got short hair, sharper edges, and well, zero time for anyone's nonsense. She's back on the team full time, cracking jokes with Abe and standing toe-to-toe with Hellboy in both arguments and action. Selma Blair really got to stretch her wings here by showing Liz as emotionally mature and finally at peace with who she is. Mostly. One of the wildest reveals in Golden Army is that Liz is pregnant with twins. And not just any kids, Hellboy's kids. That twist repositions everything. Suddenly, this isn't just about battles, it's about a future. Liz, who once locked herself away because she couldn't trust herself, is now growing new life inside her. That's some wild metamorphosis. It also raises some truly wild implications about what kind of powers those kids might have, but the movie leaves that to our imagination. Another major upgrade in the second film is how Liz uses her abilities. You see, now she doesn't need to be pushed to the edge to ignite. She uses her fire deliberately and without apology. In the climax, when the evil Prince Nuada forces a massive standoff, Liz is right there beside Hellboy, ready to burn the world down if it means protecting her new family. Selma Blair's portrayal was widely praised for giving Liz emotional depth without ever turning her into a cliché. She was complicated, raw, and above all, real. There's a reason fans still talk about her take on the character more than a decade later. And when the 2019 reboot decided not to include Liz at all, many fans felt something vital was missing. That version of Hellboy felt like a body without a heartbeat. Blair herself has commented on this, saying her job was done, but you can tell she left part of herself in that role. Her Liz Sherman redefined what a superpowered character could be. She wasn't all flash and action. She was sadness, self-doubt, love, and strength wrapped up in one haunted but hopeful woman. And she didn't need a costume or a catchphrase to make an impact. What makes Liz stand out is that her greatest battle isn't with demons or ancient curses, it's with herself. And that's something we don't see often enough in movies like these. Sure, there are explosions and gothic backdrops, but when Liz lights up the screen literally and emotionally, it's about someone finally giving themselves permission to be powerful. And that's why Liz Sherman, as portrayed by Selma Blair, still matters today. Looks, the woman behind the flame. Elizabeth Sherman doesn't walk into a room commanding attention with loud outfits. Her appearance is understated, often pale, with sharp cheekbones and dark eyes that carry the weight of someone who's lived through emotional and literal firestorms. In the comics, Liz has a lean frame and is usually seen wearing functional clothes like boots and black jackets. Stuff that suggests she's here to work. not to impress. Her fashion sense isn't flashy because her energy is internal. This minimalism makes her grounded, especially in contrast to the surreal world she navigates. In earlier comic issues, she kept her long dark hair pulled back or hidden under caps, often looking exhausted, like someone who hasn't had a good night's sleep in years. It fits because she's someone trying to suppress something volatile. Later, as she becomes more comfortable with her powers, her looks become more relaxed. She still doesn't glam it up, but there's a subtle shift. A quiet confidence replaces the exhaustion. In the 2007 B.P.R.D. arcs, her new posture and sharper eyes make it obvious. Goals. For most people, the goal is to master a skill or find success. For Liz, it's learning how to simply exist without causing harm. After incinerating an entire city block, her life became a tightrope walk between controlling her power and trying not to hate herself. Even when she becomes an elite B.P.R.D. agent, it's not because she's ambitious. She just doesn't want others to suffer from what she's become. When Memnon Saw tempts her with the possibility of achieving ultimate psychic peace, Liz briefly entertains the idea because she's exhausted. Her goal shifts from survival to transformation. If she can't erase the past, maybe she can evolve into someone who can shape the future instead of destroying it. This vision becomes especially clear when she takes a leadership role in the B.P.R.D. post-Memnon Saw. In the King of Fear storyline, we get the clearest picture of the change. Liz stands firm, using her powers to decimate a subterranean army without losing herself in the chaos. She finally stops hiding from the world and starts fighting for it. Abilities: pyrokinesis, psychic resistance, and power surges. Liz Sherman is a pyrokinetic, but that word doesn't quite do justice to what she's capable of. Her power involves spontaneous combustion and, in rare cases, planetary-level destruction. This is psychic fire, and her emotional state influences its intensity. Even the Catholic shelters and government monitoring programs couldn't contain her power. They only sedated it. As an adult, Liz starts to unlock new layers as she begins to generate and manipulate heat across distances. In one mission, she immolates a den full of frog monsters with a sweeping wave of flame that burns them instantly without touching the human bystanders. She's precise, even when unleashing hell. But it's during her time under the influence of Memnon Saw that her abilities evolve drastically. Saw helps her tap into ancient energy sources by enhancing her psychic connection to heat and fire. In B.P.R.D. The Warning, she levels a massive underground temple using raw energy, burning through dimensional barriers and leaving behind nothing but scorched stone. That's when we truly realize her raw potential. Her powers go beyond fire, too. She has high resistance to psychic attacks, something very few B.P.R.D. agents can boast. Even when possessed or mentally manipulated, she retains a sliver of control. That came in handy when she was targeted by spirits and gods alike. One scene in Plague of Frogs shows her resisting the call of an ancient entity. Her mind cracks, but it doesn't shatter. Toward the later arcs of B.P.R.D., Liz becomes a battlefield-level asset. In King of Fear, she torches waves of monstrous enemies while maintaining precision, never once harming her teammates. Her command over her power becomes so strong that she even generates controlled napalm bursts without relying on fuel or oxygen sources, which is something not even most pyrokinetics in comics manage. Personality, guilt, growth, and grit. Elizabeth Sherman doesn't smile often. But when she does, it usually means something has shifted. Her personality is complex, to say the least. On one hand, she's introverted and self-depreciating, always worried she'll hurt someone. On the other, she's fiercely loyal and quietly sarcastic, especially around people she trusts. Hellboy and Abe bring out her dry humor. Around others, she's cautious because she's been studied and feared too many times to drop her guard easily. Her defining trait is guilt. It guides many of her decisions, especially early in her B.P.R.D. career. She takes missions because it feels like atonement. But as she matures, that guilt transforms into determination. She becomes bolder, more assertive in tactical meetings, even pushing back against agency higher-ups. She's also deeply empathetic, especially toward other outcasts and paranormal beings. She often intervenes when missions go sideways. This empathy makes her stand apart from the militarized B.P.R.D approach. Marvelous verdict. By the end of the major arcs, Liz isn't just a woman with fire inside her. She's someone who has walked through it and come out sharper and absolutely in control. Now we know why she is more than just Hellboy's tragic love interest. She's one of the most layered human characters in the entire Hellboy universe. Which was your favorite Liz moment from the comics or movies? Do let us know in the comments below. And if you liked this breakdown, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so we can bring you more such deep dives. Until then, stay sharp and stay safe. We'll catch you in the next one.